Hello, this is a tutorial on how to complete the Critical Analysis Essay Planner for English 102. In the week announcements, you will see a link to the Critical Analysis Planner. So you can click on that, or you can go to Content and go to Unit 1, Critical Analysis Essay, and scroll down until you find the Critical Analysis Planner. When you click on that, you'll see the document, but you will need to type on this document, so you'll want to download that. If you click the download, you should be able to open that up in Word. Alternatively, you can simply type the information in your own document, whether it's Word 365 or a Google Doc or whatever you're using. Okay, so for the planner, you're going to organize your essay. The planner is divided into sections that correspond to the sections of your essay. So the first section is your introduction. This could be one paragraph, or it could be more than one, depending on what you would like to do. But either way, in your introduction, you will need to explain the two sources that you are using for this essay, and you're going to need to give your overall evaluation of those sources. Are they effective? Is one more effective than the other? So here you see the pieces of information you need to provide: the title of the source, the author, the date of publication, the location or source of the article or TED Talk or whatever it might be. That might be a magazine name, a newspaper name, or a TED Talk or YouTube. And then the thesis or overall point of that source. And in about 2 to 4 sentences, a brief overview of what was in that source. I use the word source because some might be articles and some might be videos. So that's why I use the term source. So you would briefly explain those two sources and then give your overall evaluation. You probably will want to wait to create your thesis until after you've done your analysis in sections 2, 3, and 4. So we'll come back to that. The next section of your essay is evaluating the author credibility of each source. Here you see a list of questions that you should consider as you look at each source. Who is the author? What is the author's purpose? What is the intended audience? Are there any biases and assumptions made by the author? What is the author's worldview? All of that to try to figure out, is this author a credible, reliable person to write on this topic? What are his or her credentials, background, that kind of thing. So what you'll actually type on the planner is simply a statement here, probably a few sentences, where you would discuss the credibility of the first source's author and the second source's author. Make sure that you keep your sources in the same order so that source 1 is always referring to the same material. So you're going to type some information here, and then decide, based just on author credibility, which source is more reliable and credible. Section 3 is looking at the evidence. So again, there's a set of questions that you want to consider as you evaluate each source. What kind of evidence is used? Testimony, that's firsthand knowledge, facts, statistics, analogies, which are comparisons to try to help understand a situation, or hypotheticals, what if situations. So look for any of those. You may also find just straight opinion from the author, and that's not considered hard evidence, but it would also be something to discuss in this section. Then you want to decide, is there enough, sufficient evidence? Is it all relevant to the topic at hand? And does it seem to be accurate? Also consider ethos, pathos, and logos as you look at the approach that the author uses in the source or in the material. And you can always look up those terms. They are from English 101, but they're very common terms that show the different ways that we make appeals for our arguments, whether it's based on credibility of the author, whether it's based on emotion, whether it's based on logic. And then, of course, what other evidence might have been helpful in that source. Again, here is where you will write on your planner discussing the evidence for source 1 and source 2. And again, which evidence is more reliable, or which article does a better job with providing sufficient, relevant, and accurate evidence. Section 4 of your essay is an analysis of the language used in the source, looking at the tone of the article or TED Talk, looking at the language choices. Are there connotative choices made? Is there a lot of emotive language? Any other kinds of interesting uses of language? And how does that impact the author's point? Does it help the reader or listener better understand what's going on, or does it interfere in some way? So down here where it says source 1 and source 2, that's where you would actually discuss your analysis of the language. And then again, just looking at language choices, which source was more effective. And then finally, you have your evaluation and conclusion. So looking at all three aspects of your analysis, credibility, evidence, and language, how effective were each of the sources, and was one more effective than the other, and why? This is what you should also have up here in your thesis. Here you'll simply state in one sentence your overall evaluation, and then down here, of course, you'll restate it and then give your rationale for why you made that decision, based again on your analysis. All right, so hopefully that will help you fill out the document. When you are done with it, you can go to the link to submit it, or again, you can go to Content Unit 1 Critical Analysis Essay and find the same link, and that will take you to your submission folder. You can add your Word document by dragging and dropping it, or by clicking the Add Attachments and uploading. If you used Word 365, which is the cloud version, you can click Add Attachments and go to your OneDrive. Choose Existing will also allow you to access your OneDrive files. If you want to submit a Google Doc for the pre-writing, then there is a place here where you can put that link. But I would definitely prefer the Word or Word 365. I don't like you to submit PDFs. They are difficult for me to work with. So either Word 365, or for the pre-writing, I would allow a Google Doc. All right, hopefully that will help you get started.